But first, the state government faces an almost daily diet of protests over such things as budget cuts and development decisions. Near McLaren Vale, a proposed 77-hectare housing and light industry development has driven locals who've never protested before out onto the streets. And it's renewed calls for both better protection of prime agricultural land and an end to developers making donations to the major parties. Simon Raw reports.
We're not fools. We're fearful that decisions have been made, then we'll be dealt with a big bucket that we have to eat through.
It was quite exciting, the amount of people who are really against this development. We'd like them to say, OK, let's sit down and have a talk about this.
These people are here and they're passionate about the land that they've got. I think we can find probably a compromise.
It was a Sunday drive with a difference. It wasn't tourists pouring onto McLaren Vale's streets, it was the locals out in protest against a new housing development. David Paxton was one of the winemakers on his tractor.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
Well, no. No. I haven't.
At the heart of their anger is this land at Seaford Heights near McLaren Vale. The winemakers say a recent geological survey identified land around here as some of the best grape-growing country in the nation. Instead, they are worried the 77 hectares will be covered with other things.
Along the South Road, which is the main arterial road to Kangaroo Island and the Fleurieu Peninsula, they intend to put light industrial. They'll have more intensive housing, so it'll be units stacked probably 3 high. They are meant to have a school. That seems unlikely. And they're meant to have open areas and there's certainly no hospital or any medical facilities there at all.
I think that we'll probably see some housing on the Seaford Heights, but we need to make sure that we've got proper buffers in place. And if that soil is like people are saying it is, then maybe we should look at protecting that as well.
All up, the winemakers believe there'll be 1,400 dwellings. It's right next door to vineyards owned by the Paxtons and also another local winemaking family, the Harveys. They bought their blocks almost a decade ago from the state government's Land Management Corporation. They thought the land across the road, also owned by the LMC, was protected under a local government arrangement.
Development wouldn't move east of Main South Road. Now, it's only recently that we found that this block had slipped through the net, if you like, because that land happened to be in the Noarlunga Council before the councils were amalgamated.
They say the council gave them just 8 days to respond to development plans. They're angry because they fear that further stages of the development may have already been approved, and ultimately they hold Planning Minister Paul Holloway responsible.
If the deal's been done, tell us it's been done. Where are the limits on the development so we can then make plans for the rest of it? So far, nothing from government, which is why we're having to rattle chains and protest to try and get some answers.
In the middle of it all is this man, local member Leon Bignell. While Labor lost the two-party preferred vote in the March election thanks to big swings against ministers, it stayed in government because in marginal seats people like Leon Bignell hung on. He's blaming the council for what's happening in McLaren Vale.
Simon, look, I'm just trying to give you some historical perspective on what's happened here, that the council's actually handed this back. So also it suits the councils when they like, and they have face a tough decision, one of their own making, because they're the ones who wanted to get rid of the buffer zones and put the big retail outlets into this development. That was never a government plan. So
and Paul Holloway could stop it. Why hasn't he?
Because it's only just, it actually hasn't got to his desk yet, because council has just got wiped their hands of it, and now Paul has to get to the council and ask the council to pass it all on to them. So that's what I'm saying. This isn't Paul Holloway saying no, this is Paul Holloway has to make a decision over the next few weeks.
Despite coming to the protest, others argue that the local member should be doing more to stop the development.
I'm disappointed with Leon. he seems to be hunting with the hounds and running with the hares. And we're certainly the hares.
The local mayor says she's forbidden to comment by law in the lead-up to local government elections, but in previous reports she said the development is being driven by the state government. It's not the only brawl over sprawl. On the same day, Mount Barker residents also protested over plans to build 7,000 houses on farmland there. Upper House MP Rob Brokenshire says people don't trust the planning system to listen to them, and he says in part it's because Labor and the Liberals accept political donations from developers.
There is a suggestion that we should look at the federal model but put a cap on the amount of money that any body associated with a potential benefit can get from donating to parties, any party for that matter. I mean, I think the more kosher it is, the better people will feel about, good governance. And at the moment, wherever I go, they're saying to me they don't trust the government.
But there's another element to this as well, and that's food security. In August, State Line showed another part of the Harvey's vineyards in Wollonga, which had had housing built slap up against them. They're worried complaints from future neighbours over noise and spraying will hamper their ability to work the vineyard. The government blamed the council for approving it. The council says it was overruled by the government.
Every time you go and put another 40 hectares of concrete slabs on your best soil, it's gone forever.
We're not saying that this whole area needs to be grapevines. We've got the best farmers market in Australia and great examples of intensive horticulture that can actually feed a region. Yet what we're being offered is houses and no food production, tying up more and more acres of arable land to housing.
The government argues its 30-year plan for the development of Adelaide protects agricultural areas from encroachment from housing. There's little faith here in that. Robert Brokenshire has his own right to farm bill. Leon Bignell too is introducing a bill to protect agricultural land through legislation, not just regulation. Primary producers say they don't care whose bill it is, just as long as something is done before more land goes under concrete.
Introduce the bill, make it a Labor Party bill, and don't do anything. Put a moratorium on development, get the bill done, speak to the community, look at the long-term potential of the area, and then move forward.